I need to get this off my chest because the situation with my aunt has completely blown up in my face. First, let me give you some context about my family dynamics. My mom, 58F, has always been the backbone of our family, especially since my dad passed away 15 years ago. She somehow manages to juggle running our family business, taking care of my grandmother, 82F, full-time, and still going above and beyond for everyone else in the family. The family business is a successful restaurant that my parents started together 35 years ago. After Dad died, Mom took over completely and has been working tirelessly to keep his legacy alive. Despite the long hours at the restaurant, she still makes time to help everyone, particularly my Aunt Sarah, 56F, who seems to think Mom is her personal assistant. Growing up, Sarah was never really present in my 30F or my sister Jenny's 28F lives. She was always too busy with her own life to spend time with us, even though we lived just 2 streets away. I remember countless birthdays where she would send a card with money instead of showing up, claiming she had more important commitments. But somehow, she always had time for exotic vacations and social events. Sarah got married late in life and had twins, 10M/10F, through IVF. Her marriage didn't last long. Her husband left when the twins were just 2 years old. Since then, she's been heavily relying on my mom for everything. And I mean everything. Mom watches the twins after school 4 days a week, drives them to hockey practice, hosts their sleepovers, and even takes care of their massive, untrained Saint Bernard that Sarah impulsively bought last year because the twins wanted one. Meanwhile, Sarah spends her time going on vacations, posting endless photos on social media, and acting like she's some sort of supermom. The reality is that my mom is basically raising her kids while she lives her best life. Sarah has a decent job as a real estate agent, but she always claims she can't afford proper childcare or a dog sitter. Yet somehow, she manages to take 3 or 4 international trips every year. This Christmas was particularly chaotic. Mom had been up since 4 a.m. preparing everything for our traditional family breakfast. She made everyone's favorite dishes, filled 16 stockings with personalized gifts, and even decorated the entire house by herself because Sarah, who had promised to help, conveniently forgot and booked a last-minute trip to Costa Rica instead. After spending the whole morning cooking and hosting, Mom had to help Grandmother get ready for our dinner reservation at this upscale restaurant. Grandmother has mobility issues and needs special assistance with everything. Mom had to help her bathe, dress up, and do her hair, all while making sure everything at the restaurant was running smoothly on Christmas Day. Sarah had just returned from Costa Rica the day before with the twins. Instead of letting them rest and adjust to the time difference, she took them ice skating all day on Christmas. By dinner time, both kids were completely exhausted. They could barely keep their eyes open and were literally falling asleep at the table. The poor things looked miserable, but Sarah was too busy showing everyone pictures from her trip to notice. As dinner was wrapping up around 9 p.m., Mom was trying to arrange transportation for Grandmother. The restaurant was about 30 minutes from our house, and Grandmother needed help getting in and out of the car. That's when Sarah stood up and announced she needed to get her car to take the twins home. My mom, despite being clearly exhausted herself, immediately offered to take them. This really bothered me. I had watched my mom running herself ragged all day, making sure everyone was happy and taken care of. She still had to help Grandmother get ready for bed, which usually takes at least an hour. Now she would have to drive across town to drop off Sarah's kids, then come back home and still handle Grandmother's bedtime routine. It just didn't make sense, especially since Sarah was already planning to get her car. So I spoke up and said to Sarah that she should take her own kids home. The moment those words left my mouth, something in Sarah just snapped. Her face turned red and she demanded to know why I was telling her what to do. I tried to keep my voice calm and explained that since she was already getting her car, it made more sense for her to take them. But Sarah wasn't having it. She accused me of being rude and started making threats about how maybe her family would just go on vacation for Christmas next year instead of joining us. I simply responded with okay, which seemed to infuriate her even more. She then suggested that maybe I shouldn't come to Christmas next year. Again, I just said okay. This really set her off. She turned to my mom and tried to get her involved, asking if she could believe how rude I was being. My mom, clearly uncomfortable with the situation, just said she couldn't hear what was going on. Sarah then dramatically picked up one of her sleeping kids, shot me the nastiest glare, and told me to stay away from her before storming out. After she left, you could cut the tension with a knife. My cousins and sister, who were all around my age, assured me that I hadn't done anything wrong and that Sarah was being completely unreasonable. Jenny reminded everyone about how Sarah had ditched helping with Christmas preparations for her Costa Rica trip. We decided to head to a nearby bar to decompress while the older family members went home. The next morning was when things really got bad. I came into the kitchen after walking my dog and found my mom sitting at the table, crying her eyes out. Apparently, after dinner, Sarah had shown up at our house and completely lost it on my mom. She was screaming and carrying on about what I had said, though my mom wouldn't tell me exactly what was said. She just kept mentioning that Sarah had another side to the story. Jenny jumped to my defense, pointing out how Sarah takes advantage of mom's kindness and that it was about time someone called her out on it. She reminded mom about all the times Sarah had left her hanging with the twins or the dog without any notice, or how she always expects mom to rearrange her schedule to accommodate her plans. But mom just kept crying, saying she had worked so hard to make Christmas perfect and now everything was ruined because of this drama. Some family members are saying I should have just kept my mouth shut and let my mom help as usual. They say I'm stirring up unnecessary drama and that this is just how Sarah is. Others, particularly my cousins and sister, are praising me for finally standing up to Sarah and pointing out how she takes advantage of mom. I honestly don't know what to think anymore. So Reddit, Ida for telling my aunt to take her kids home? Update 1. The situation has gotten so much worse since my last post. Sarah has launched a full-scale character assassination campaign against me within our family. She's been calling everyone, from distant cousins to old family friends, telling them about how I disrespected her at Christmas dinner. But she's not just talking about the dinner incident anymore, she's rewriting our entire family history. Last week, I got a call from my cousin Mark, 35M, who lives in another state. He was concerned because Sarah had called him crying about how I've apparently been jealous of her relationship with my mom since childhood. According to her version, I've always tried to sabotage their sisterly bond because I couldn't handle not being the center of attention. She even told him that when I was a teenager, I deliberately scheduled activities with mom when I knew she had plans with Sarah, which is completely ridiculous because back then, Sarah was hardly ever around. But the worst part was discovering what Sarah had been telling my mom. Through Jenny, I learned that Sarah has been feeding mom all these lies about things I supposedly said about her parenting. She told mom that I've been going around to family members saying she's a terrible mother who always puts Sarah's needs before mine and Jenny's. She claimed I said mom was weak and spineless for letting Sarah take advantage of her. These are horrible lies. I've always been incredibly proud of my mom's giving nature, even if I sometimes worry that people take advantage of it. The situation came to a head last weekend at the twins' birthday party. Sarah made it a point to invite every single family member except me and Jenny. She even invited our cousins' kids who were the same age as the twins, knowing they're close friends with Jenny's children. My mom was torn about attending. I could see the guilt eating away at her. She ultimately went because she didn't want to disappoint the twins, but she barely stayed an hour. After the party, my cousin Lisa sent me screenshots of the party's group chat where Sarah was making subtle digs at me throughout the day. She posted pictures with captions like finally having a drama-free family gathering and sometimes cutting out toxic people is necessary for peace. The worst part was seeing various family members liking and commenting in agreement. What really hurt was discovering that Sarah had been showing people old text messages between us, completely out of context. Back in college, I went through a rough patch after a bad breakup and confided in Sarah about feeling lonely and sometimes jealous of people with perfect lives. She was actually supportive then, or so I thought. Now she's using those vulnerable messages to paint me as this bitter, jealous person who's always envied her life. She conveniently leaves out the part where she was barely present during my childhood and only started acting like an aunt when she needed mom's help with the twins. The impact on my mom has been devastating. She stopped talking about Sarah around me, but I can see how much this situation is wearing her down. Last week, she had to cancel her regular lunch date with her friends because Sarah called with another emergency involving the twins. Mom rushed over only to discover that the emergency was Sarah needing someone to watch the kids while she went to a spa day with her friends. Mom had already rearranged her whole schedule and canceled plans with her friends who had come from out of town specially to see her. This incident really upset Jenny, and she confronted Sarah about taking advantage of mom. Sarah turned this around too, telling everyone that Jenny and I are trying to isolate mom from her and the twins. She somehow convinced several family members that we're the ones being controlling and manipulative. The entire extended family is now basically split into two camps. My cousins Mark, Lisa, and their families see through Sarah's manipulation and have been supportive. But others, particularly the older generation who remember Sarah as the baby sister who lost her husband, think I'm the villain in this story. Even my grandmother, who has always stayed neutral in family conflicts, suggested that maybe I should apologize just to keep the peace. Jenny thinks I should stand my ground, but watching mom trying to navigate between her children and her sister is breaking my heart. Still, I don't believe I should apologize for something I didn't do wrong. Sarah is the one who has been manipulating everyone and using mom's kindness against her. Apologizing would just validate her behavior and make things worse in the long run. Update 2: Yesterday changed everything? I met my cousin Lisa, 32F, for coffee, and she revealed some shocking information that puts this whole situation in a completely different light. Lisa works at the same country club where Sarah is a member, and through her connections there, she discovered that Sarah has been drowning in debt for over a year now. Those frequent vacations that Sarah loves to post about on social media? All funded by maxed out credit cards. The Costa Rica trip she took right before Christmas was actually paid for using a high-interest personal loan. Lisa found out because Sarah had been desperately trying to get a membership payment extension at the club, claiming financial hardship while simultaneously posting photos from her luxury vacation. This explains why Sarah relies so heavily on my mom. She can't afford regular childcare for the twins anymore, and the dog she impulsively bought is costing a fortune in food and vet bills. The hockey lessons that mom drives the twins to? Sarah hasn't paid the coaching fees in 3 months. The coach only allows the twins to continue because mom secretly paid the outstanding balance. But here's where it gets really concerning. Lisa overheard Sarah talking to another club member about how she's been pressuring mom to invest more money in the family restaurant to help her out of her financial mess. Sarah has been telling mom that as sisters, they need to stick together. She's been manipulating mom by bringing up how she supposedly helped mom through her grief when dad passed away 15 years ago. The reality, according to Lisa and other family members who were around then, was very different. When dad died, Sarah was barely present. She showed up for the funeral and left 2 days later for a planned vacation, leaving mom to handle everything alone. Now she's rewriting history to guilt mom into helping her financially. What makes this even worse is that Sarah has been spreading lies about why she's in financial trouble. She's been telling everyone at church and in our extended family that she's broke because she's been helping mom with grandmother's care expenses. This is completely false. Mom has been using her own savings and the money from the restaurant to care for grandmother. Sarah hasn't contributed a single penny. In fact, she still owes mom money for the time she borrowed to cover the twins' school expenses. I couldn't just sit on this information. This morning, I confronted mom about it. At first, she tried to deflect, saying it wasn't my business, but eventually she broke down and admitted everything. Sarah had asked her to invest $50,000 from the restaurant into a real estate venture that Sarah claimed would solve all her financial problems. Mom was actually considering it because Sarah had been guilt-tripping her about how she favored me and Jenny growing up. Mom revealed that Sarah had been telling her that the reason she's always needed so much help with the twins is that mom was never there for her when she got divorced. Sarah claimed that while mom was busy running the restaurant and helping me through college, she was left to struggle as a single mother. She conveniently forgets that mom was the one who helped her pay for the IVF treatments that gave her the twins in the first place. What really got to me was learning that Sarah had been using grandmother's declining health as leverage. She told mom that if she didn't help her financially, she would tell grandmother about how mom had supposedly been mismanaging the restaurant and squandering dad's legacy. Mom has been terrified of grandmother finding out about any of this drama because of her heart condition. The worst part is that some of Sarah's financial troubles stem from her trying to maintain appearances. She keeps spending money she doesn't have on expensive vacations and country club memberships because she's desperate to keep up with her wealthy friends. Meanwhile, mom has been quietly helping her pay for basic necessities for the twins, thinking she was genuinely struggling. I'm honestly scared about what Sarah might do next. She's clearly desperate and isn't above using emotional manipulation to get what she wants. Mom has already given her so much money that we don't know if she'll ever be able to pay it back. Jenny is furious and wants to expose Sarah to the entire family, but mom is begging us to keep it quiet to protect grandmother. Update 3: The situation finally exploded last week. Mom was reviewing the restaurant's financial records when she discovered something horrifying. Sarah had been writing unauthorized checks from the business account. Over the past 6 months, she had forged mom's signature on checks totaling nearly $75,000. When mom confronted her, Sarah's response was chilling. She claimed she was entitled to the money because she was family and that mom owed her for all the emotional support she'd supposedly provided over the years. The confrontation happened at the restaurant during business hours. Sarah started screaming about how unfair everything was, how mom had always favored me and Jenny, and how we had ruined her life. She even blamed mom for her failed marriage, saying that if mom had helped her more with the twins instead of focusing on the restaurant, maybe her ex-husband wouldn't have left. Several customers witnessed this meltdown, and one even recorded it. Mom was devastated but finally took action. She filed a police report and we're working with the bank to protect the business accounts. The bank's fraud department is investigating, and they found evidence that Sarah had been systematically stealing from the restaurant for months. She had even tried to take out a loan using the restaurant as collateral, forging mom's signature on the application. What made this even more painful was discovering that grandmother had known about Sarah's financial troubles all along. Apparently, Sarah had been borrowing money from grandmother's retirement fund, promising to pay it back but never doing so. Grandmother had kept quiet because Sarah threatened to stop her from seeing the twins if she told anyone. The twins are now spending weekends with their father instead of mom. He got involved after learning about Sarah's financial situation and her neglect of the kids. It turns out he had been paying child support regularly, but Sarah had been using it for her personal expenses instead of the children's needs. He's now seeking modified custody arrangements. Sarah sent me a long message filled with accusations. She blamed me for destroying the family, claimed that everything she did was justified because mom always favored me, and said that I would regret turning everyone against her. She even threatened to spread rumors about the restaurant to drive away customers. I didn't respond and blocked her number immediately. Some family members, particularly the older aunts, are still trying to get us to reconcile. They keep saying that family should stick together and that we should find a way to help Sarah instead of involving the police. But they changed their tune when they learned she had also tried to scam several of them by asking for loans using the same sob stories. Through all this, mom has finally started seeing Sarah for who she really is. While it breaks her heart, she knows she can't keep enabling Sarah's behavior. She's started setting boundaries with other family members too. Last week, she declined to babysit for another aunt who regularly takes advantage of her kindness, saying she needed time for herself. Lisa told me that Sarah has been badmouthing us at the country club, telling anyone who will listen that we've abandoned her in her time of need. But most people have seen through her act, especially after the scene she caused at the restaurant went viral locally. Grandmother is now living with us full-time, and her health has actually improved since we cut contact with Sarah. The constant stress of keeping Sarah's secrets had been taking a toll on her. Mom and I are closer than ever, and she's finally putting herself first. Sometimes the hardest thing is watching someone you love learn painful lessons, but I know we made the right decision in cutting Sarah out of our lives.